we've got a Subaru Sambar, don't know the year. It's in the generation range of 90 to 2006. So clearly it's before 1999 or earlier because it's been imported into the US. And it's a V KS4 and it has a hole in the block. Subaru, big surprise. So we're gonna drop the motor in preparation to either fix or replace that engine. So let's do it, but first gotta organize the shop a little bit. So. So a guy gave me this truck. I fixed this one and another one for him, and he said, well, I haven't fixed this one yet, but he said it was like carburetor or something. I don't know. Carburetor was off. Everything was off. I put the carburetor back on, figured out all the vacuum lines, and got it running. And I'm like, fired right up. I'm like, oh, cool. Then only to discover the hole in the block, and oil was just slinging out everywhere. And I'll show you a picture. I fished the borescope down there, and the rod was completely missing. The piston's still in the cylinder, and I don't see the rod cap. I see nothing. I haven't dropped the oil pan or anything yet. But regardless, this guy's either getting another motor or we're going to fix this one. And so regardless, it's got to come out. So no idea what to do. I do have a service manual, an FSM for it, so I'm gonna drop the motor, and you know, at least you can follow along and have an idea of how to do it. And from there, I don't know. We'll see what happens to fix it, but this will just be about getting the motor out. This might make some things more difficult and some things easier, but I'm going to attempt to split the transmission from the motor, getting rid of the airbox and all that. We'll get the carb out of the way. But I would really not like to mess with the drivetrain. Oh, I already have that off. Leave the transmission in place, all the linkages, and not have to take the half shafts off. And basically just separate this motor and pull it out. Exhaust will have to get undone. This wiring harness that is hooked to the body. And yeah, that just goes there. And hopefully leave as much of this intact as possible and just get out the cancerous part. So, some motor mounts, this and that. I think that's probably going to be the best way to go. Now, if he does get another motor and it comes with the transmission, well then fine, I'll take this out. But until then, he might just be getting a long block, and so I don't know. Or he might just be repairing this, and then I wanted to leave that alone anyway. So here we go. Okay, get the carburetor out of the way, loosened, removed these two coolant lines on the back and some of the miscellaneous hoses. I took pictures of everything. I think those are fuel lines that went to the carb. And yeah, just gonna be getting more stuff to get the transmission free. I've got a bit of wiggle separating the motor and the training. Concerning though, because I only have 3 real bolts holding the transmission, plus the 2 that held the starter motor in place. I mean, one's actually a nut because there's a fixed bolt, and then the other was a bolt that runs through all the way to the motor. So that means 4 bolts are holding this together. I mean, I know it's 660 cc's, but it just seems a little sus. But if I take this, where's that spot? And I got clear separation. So I think what I'm gonna do, that's transmission mount. This is like, I think, the main motor mount. So I'm just gonna undo this bolt, take that out. And then the tricky part, like if you've never pulled a motor out, you're not really sure the orientation. And this is definitely gonna be in the way. Like I might have to take the distributor off to clear this, I forget what they're called, but it's like coil pack or whatever. Might have to take that off to clear. But I'm assuming this motor is gonna have to come sideways, get that input shaft clear, transmission and clutch and all. And then it's gonna have to like I don't know. Gonna figure it out together. I should make note that some of this is easier to get out because, well, all this was already removed when I got it. So you definitely have like this rear bumper part all in your way. But I didn't have that. Okay, so a bit of a hiccup here. This motor mount is sandwiched with this bracket. It runs underneath, and there's 3 bolts that are holding it behind here. This cross member is very much in the way. Now, if I remove this exhaust manifold, I might be able to pry this up enough, and then I can get in here to loosen them up. And I think that's what I'm going to try, because otherwise, there's no way to get the motor over far enough without now, without now messing with the transmission and undoing mounts and this and that. And I don't want to do that. Release these 4 bolts here and 3 on the rear. At least they're easy enough to get that off. I gotta get this friggin' thing off. And I'm gonna try that first. Then I can undo this motor mount, and the motor mount can come this way to free up that, or the bracket can come this way to free up the mount. Let's see. Alright, now I'm using the jack to get a little tension on the motor. Basically to remove a little tension on this motor mount, that bracket here. So now I'm going to take, there's 4 bolts actually. I'm going to take those off from under there, I'm going to pull this motor mount out of the way, and then we'll see. Alright, 4 bolts out, and then, as I hoped, this comes right out, and taking that out just to save some space. Okay, as soon as I got that mount out of the way, this did try to, it's trying to come out right now. So I'm going to use the jack and hopefully can get this to come sideways out of the transmission. If not, we'll see what's still holding it in place. Finally got it to break free. I don't know what was holding it up. It was just being sassy. So if this is going to come out, and I say if, it looks like I'm going to have to take the coil pack off, and I'm going to have to take, I don't know, some kind of EGR hose, this fixed hose. I already removed it from the exhaust manifold, but this is going to have to come out to give me enough clearance. Even the oil filter might be in the way, but maybe once it's up a little more, it'll clear. We'll see. Okay, this episode will be titled How Not to Remove the Engine from Your Subaru Sambar. Couple recommendations. I would take the time to remove this half shaft. It was just in the way of everything. I mean, really annoying. Also, remove this. It's supposed to be like that, and it's not anymore. So, other than that, I mean, everything was kind of straightforward. I snapped off that damn dipstick tube because I forgot to, dipstick, because I forgot to pull it out. So I got to order another one of those. But it is out. Oh, and I snatched up bin on the. I gotta try and bend that back into place. That's beautiful. I mean, it just got caught on the bell housing or something. Yeah. So now it's up to him. I mean, I'll get my ducks in a row and have this thing either ready to weld a plate back in place and rebuild the bottom end. Don't recommend that. Or drop in a new motor. Now, putting in a new motor, I'm like, good Lord, how am I gonna do that? Because that was so difficult to get in. I did have to remove, there's like little, well, these and this. So I had to remove those because it was just too much. Even this was in the way. Just close enough to clear, this. And if you had your oil filter off, it may help, but I'd rather have that on there to take the abuse than hitting the threads or anything. Dipstick tube took some hits. Cover survived all right. It was just, I mean, doing it again, I would be like, okay, remove this, remove that, get everything, super flush and clean, and maybe it'll go in a little better. But I might actually jack that wheel up and remove that half shaft for the reinstall, and it's just going to make it that much easier. Honestly, my problem with getting this out was probably that input shaft. Jeez, it's so rusty, no wonder. It came out and got hung on this. So I was literally pulling this apart. I mean, that was probably the whole reason it was. I got an inch of gap here. Like, what's going on? And I think it was just hung up on that. I mean, well, I don't know where or how. That doesn't really make sense. Doesn't even feel burred, but what a pain. And I'm still not 100% sure it would have been easier to take this cross member off, the half shafts off, motor mount. I'm sure there's a transmission mount up there, all the linkage, all the freaking exhaust alone. I mean, is doing all that, was that going to be easier than what I fought with? I mean, honestly, let me see what time it is. It's 5:30. I started at like 3, and I even ran to the store for 30 minutes. So I have 2 hours in this pull. Now, like I said, some of those parts were already off, but 2 hours to have this motor out, sitting there, it's not bad. Not great. I can have that car, the SR20, out sitting on the pallet in hour and a half if I'm rusty, cleanly. But I've also done it 2-3 dozen times, so not bad for a first pull. Hopefully that helps. I will, whatever happens here, I should do a reinstall video. I might not do I might just be like, hey, we replaced the motor, or hey, I did it. Now, if I rebuild the bottom end, maybe I'll film that, because, I mean, there's some stuff about these K-trucks out here, but, floating around the internet, but, so the more out there, the better. But, anyway, I hope that helped. Hopefully you have your stuff fixed. Heat shields, I get to figure all that out when I put it back together, but, hit me up with any questions. Be happy to help, and thanks for watching.